something from the
Oh,
review.
wonderful.
It's
I
full
love
of
that.
water if you
Oh, that's
need some,
perfect.
but yeah.
Thank you. The owl. I've heard about the owl.
Good to go?
Oh, yeah. Are we starting now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Really?
Well, we can give it a couple more minutes, but
Oh, we started with me up here. This is hilarious. So funny.
oh yeah, a few more people coming in. Yay. Always happy to see that.
Yeah, it's always weird to be formal when there's just like just a handful of people. Uh-oh. I did this again.
Let's get that fixed before we start.
Okay. There we go. And I'm supposed to be speaking into that? Okay, I can see that there. That's cool.
Are you all trying to do what we were trying to do this way? This way I was trying to do video USF. And they were going to do it. I had no, that was the only reason why I didn't go through. Because of the financial insecurity, like USF didn't know if they could. And because everything was so uncertain, that's why they closed. Because we put all of our eggs into it. I'm still trying to get my retirement. No one knows where they are. And I did the rollover. My plan was to die in a classroom. But that's what we're going to do. That's something we got. We only need to invest more. Like $100. I know, right? When I'll be 140, maybe I'll be okay. Anyway, it's all just good. I'm only sorry for that.
Welcome, everyone. I think we'll get started. Welcome to the Fall Writing Forward Reading Series event, sponsored by the Santa Clara Review and Department of English Creative Writing Program. My name is Kirk Glazer, Director of Creative Writing. Thank you all for coming. We're thrilled to feature memoirist, travel writer, and educator Faith Adiele here today. Today, Faith will talk and read from her work, hold a discussion with Professor of Creative Writing Kai Harris, and then present some more before opening it up to your questions and a book signing. We have several of her books for sale in the back, including her award-winning memoir, Meeting Faith, about becoming Thailand's first Black Buddhist nun, and two recent interconnected memoirs about her Finnish grandmother and family while growing up in Eastern Washington. Also, please pick up a free copy of the Santa Clara Review, which are on the tables back there as well. Before we begin, let us take a moment to acknowledge the Santa Clara University sits on the land of the Ohlone and Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their connection to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, learn, create, and meditate on their traditional homeland. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respect to their elders and to all Ohlone people, past and present. While a land acknowledgement is important, it is not enough. One option to do more is to make a donation or Shuumi land tax to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe at muwekma.org or to the Sogaria Thailand Trust.org, an urban indigenous women-led group based in the Bay Area. These organizations facilitate the return of indigenous land to indigenous people, restore sovereignty, and many other issues. You can check out their websites to learn more and consider a donation for today's event. And I'm now pleased to turn the podium over to Professor Harris, author of the novel What the Fireflies Knew and creative writing teacher extraordinaire, to introduce Faith.
I don't know about extraordinaire, but we'll take it. Hi, everybody. So I am here to introduce my friend, Faith Adiele, and I'm very excited to have her here. So I'll start with just some more bio things and then a more personal story. Faith is the author of Meeting Faith, a memoir about ordaining as Thailand's first Black Buddhist nun, a memoir which won the PEN Open Book Award in 2005. Her media credits include 2 episodes of A World of Calm on HBO Max, which I remember being very excited about because of Idris Elba. And the PBS documentary, My Journey Home, about finding her family in Nigeria. Faith writes and speaks about race, culture, and travel. Founder of the nation's first writing workshop for travelers of color, she teaches at California College of the Arts and leads writing workshops around the world. So for me, I met Faith in 2020 when I was in a workshop called VONA, Voices of Our Nation's Arts. It's a workshop that nurtures writers of color. And I signed up for Faith's travel writing workshop. I didn't know anything about travel writing and wanted to learn about it because I was working on a novel about a travel writer. And so I showed up in Faith's class, and perhaps the best way that I can introduce her to you is to let you know that, so it was 2020, it was the pandemic. In fact, we were all scheduled to do this workshop in Miami, Florida, and I was so excited because at that time, I had never even been to Miami in my life. I know that's kind of strange. So I was like so excited, like I'm gonna go to this workshop and I'm gonna meet this fancy writer. Anyways, I did the workshop in my basement on my laptop. And thanks to Faith's excellence as a travel writer, a traveler, someone who speaks and teaches about travel and travel writing, I truly felt like that workshop took place somewhere else besides my basement on my laptop. And that's something that has always stuck with me, is how she was able to make me feel that way. So Faith is lovely. Also, when I first moved here, she took me on my first, she was my first friend here. And she sat me down and told me everything I needed to know. And I still have all of it written down in a note. So Faith is very important to me, and I'm so excited to introduce her to you. So I will turn it over to Faith Adiele. Oh, I started to. I thought you didn't want me to. Don't worry about that.
Pretty good in that story. Does everyone want to be in my selfie with me? Yay. Excellent. Thank you. Always forgetting to record these things. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you so much for coming out tonight for this. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Kai and to Kirk for arranging this wonderful visit. It's been a really hard week in a hard month, and it's so lovely to go someplace where I don't have any administrative duties and just be able to talk to fabulous students and young writers, and be wined and dined is coming up. So it means a lot. Writing can often be hard and solitary, and so the moments when people actually read your book and want to celebrate you are so treasured. And it's so lovely to be able to have someone as a student and then have them as a colleague and then have them invite you to do something. It's so lovely to kind of connect with a fellow Buddhist writer. So just thank you so much. It really means a lot. And I'm super happy to be here, and I've loved the students that I've spoken to. So what I'm going to do is read a bit from my first book, Meeting Faith, which will kind of show my kind of obsession with structure, and then move to the new chapbooks that are all about wacky, crazy structure. But there'll be a conversation in between, so kind of letting you know how things developed. So this is kind of just setting the context of me growing up in Washington State on a farm with my Nordic American immigrant family. I'm not knowing my Nigerian father until later, but thinking that everything was going to be great once I just got off the farm and out of my stupid small town and got to go to college in Boston. And little did I know that Boston sucks, and it was not the promised land, and I promptly had all sorts. It was very, very hard to be there, particularly as a very naive kind of scholarship student. So I ended up having a breakdown, though I didn't have the vocabulary for it at the time. All I knew was I couldn't get out of bed, and I just stayed in bed, didn't go to my exams. I ate a lot of candy bars, but that's every day, so that's not necessarily an indication of trauma, until I had flunked spectacularly and had to leave the college for a year. And so some part of my reptilian brain knew that I would be safe if I went back to Thailand, which is where I had spent a year as an exchange student in high school. And there was a new study abroad program, so I ended up going to Thailand, and we were supposed to do field research projects. And so I wasn't quite sure what I'd want to study because I liked everything. And then one of the American students who I was rooming with said he was going to study Buddhist monks. Then at the end, he was going to ordain. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. That's like really cool. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. And everyone started laughing. All the Thai people are like, nuns, no one ordains as a nun. Broken heart, broken home. Broken heart, broken home. That's all they said. It was a broken heart, broken home. As if a woman would only choose a spiritual life if she'd failed a regular life. So then, of course, if you know me, you know that I had to ordain because I was like, challenge accepted. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write the definitive study on Buddhist nuns. I'm going to go back to college and I'm going to deliver my findings in a room much like this to much applause, and everyone will be really sorry for how they treated me. That was my grand plan for redemption. And then as I started studying Buddhist nuns and hanging out with them, I was like, I don't want this life. But it was fascinating talking to them. And then my advisor, who had been very high up, he had been a monk and an abbot, said, you're about to replicate the problem that all Western anthropology has created, which is you go someplace that you don't know for a little while. You're asking women why they're ordaining. You're asking a sociological question, and they're responding using spiritual language, which you don't speak. And then you think you know something, and you're going to go back and tell their story. So I was like, oh, damn, snap. Okay, so in order to tell someone's story, you have to have something at risk yourself. And my advisor kept suggesting that I should ordain. And so eventually I ordained. And I was so blissed out by the place I found that I did not realize that it was the only temple in Thailand that allows women to do hard practice, which means vow of silence, 1 meal a day, meditation or mindfulness 19 hours a day, no money, no shoes. At that point, I had meditated for 15 minutes in my life. And my grand plan to do research clearly was out the window. So I was like, what the hell am I doing? So I'd ordained, I was there, and the head nun said, if I tell you what we're doing, you'll forget it. But if you touch it for yourself, experience for yourself, you'll always remember. And then at the end of your time, any woman who wants to break her vow of silence long enough to be interviewed by you has my permission. Does that seem fair? And I was like, that indeed does seem fair. So, and then she gave me a journal because she's like, you Americans like to talk too much. So if you're feeling something, just write it in the journal. So that became the basis. So this is me being ordained. My advisor arranged for me to be the first woman ordained at the Royal Temple of the North. There had never been a ceremony for a woman there. And so it was a big deal, all eyes on me. He was able to use my status as an outsider. And so we went through the head and eyebrow shaving ceremony, and then this is me immediately after taking my vows and realizing that I had already changed simply by taking the vows. So these are two versions of the book, the hardback on the left and then the paperback on the right. Fun fact, hardbacks are supposed to be more literary and paperbacks are supposed to be more narrative. That's why they look that way. And the structure, I wanted to keep my journal entries. And so the structure we eventually came up with, I worked with a book designer, Book Arts, was the Talmud, which has text and commentary. And so this is the idea we came up with. It doesn't look like this, but this was the idea. She researched lots of spiritual texts and she wanted it to be spiritual on some level. And so we have my anthropology notes and my journal entries in the margins, photos at the beginning of each chapter, the memoir text in the middle, and then an epigraph of something that I was reading to show the influences on me. And then I have charts and everything because I was, trying to study the subject, and the only subject was me. So there's a lot of studying me. I also wanted there to be a lot of white space to mimic the importance of breath and meditation. The things that are in the margins are thematically linked to what's happening in the memoir in the middle. And the idea is to show the kind of ragged, uneven, unmediated progression that you go through when you try to change your life. You take one step forward, 2 steps back. So it was to kind of be a little whisper, an unmediated whisper to the reader that this is hard, but we will get through it. This is how we do it. I also wanted the page to be a little disorienting to the reader, which is what travel writing is, or traveling. You arrive to a new place, you don't know where to go, you don't know how to find your way, you don't know who to listen to. And so giving the reader agency to navigate how they were going to read it and do it on the page, I thought was super important. It asks more of the reader, but the reward can be more. And then, of course, this subtle evocation that it was a spiritual text. The further on you go, the deeper the memoir goes into the subconscious, which is what happens in meditation as well. So it kind of starts with the trauma, and then we go back into my childhood, like why would I choose to do this? Because people kept on asking. So yeah, that's the setup. It was a long setup. Sorry about that. Are we good? Okay, so I'll just read some bits from the text. Despite the name Faith, I'm an unlikely candidate for spiritual aspiration. Strangers are surprised to learn I spent a Lenten season as a Buddhist nun in the Thai forest. Their eyes widen, taking in all of me. I dread the questions, but even more I dread my stock answers, chanted like an unholy mantra. Yep, I'm not Asian. Nope, I'm not some New Ager on a holy trek to the food co-op. Nah, I don't particularly believe in religion. I don't even believe in camping. To complicate matters further, I'm Black, physically soft, pierced, and what they may not know, addicted to African dance grooves, snacks involving processed flour and sugar, good jewelry, bad television. Friends, too, are surprised to learn the details. It's no secret Faith lacks discipline. She can't even make it to the gym. Forget about enlightenment. Anyone who knows me knows I couldn't have risen at 3:30 each morning and spent 19 hours a day in meditative practice. Aren't I the one always saying 7:30 comes but once, dinner time? I certainly didn't go from sitting 15 minutes in meditation to 72 hours at a stretch. How many hours? Nah, not Faith. The only thing to suggest otherworldliness might be possible is a quaint refusal to smash bugs and an inability to keep shoes on my feet. But that's not enough, is it? Understandably, friends and strangers ask questions, the answers they expect embedded in the queries themselves. Wasn't it hot? Weren't you lonely? Weren't you scared? The answers to all are yes. Yes to hot, lonely, scared. Yes to missing physical intimacy in movies and Pop-Tarts. And yes to my fear of everything the phrase tropical forest conjures. Giant spiders and hissing cobras and forest fires and prehistoric monitor lizards. Yes to my fear of everything that Buddhist asceticism suggests, a single meal a day, sleeping on wooden floors, meditating on decomposing corpses. Yes, 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 there were times I shuddered and sobbed in a night so dark I couldn't see if my eyes were open or shut. Times I detested the Buddha and Asia and so-called personal growth. Times when nothing was more terrifying than the prospect of sitting with the contents of my own mind for 19 hours a day. But, and here's the part friends can recognize in the stranger that used to be Faith, I was even more afraid of failure. And why not? It seems downright un-American to fail. Furthermore, failure nearly killed me once. So this is after the first time I go to the meal. It's a very highly ritualized thing, ceremony with lots of chanting. My eagerness to try the meal dissipates completely when a monk, very old to judge by the creaky timbre of his voice, begins to chant the prayer of blessing and thanks. The other monks and nuns join in, surrounding the first monk's call with an exquisite wall of sound. The hairs on my neck quiver as the women harmonize with the men, their liquid tones weaving intricately in and out of the melody, sometimes an octave higher, sometimes lower. I feel pricked and tearful as when the impossibly beautiful aria-like chords of the two solo violins in Bach's double concerto in D minor tug at my heart and spine. There are musical moments I don't understand when the experience is wholly visceral, an emotional reminder that we are all sinew pulled taut between poles, skin stretched tight on a drum, heart, breath. My pulse flutters in my throat. I ache to join the voices as they meet, male and female lowering in unison to the passional guttural drone of Islamic song. Suddenly, I'm on the sun-baked streets of Penang, the air vibrating with the wild cry of a Malaysian muezzin, wishing that for just an instant someone would close his eyes and lean out of a tall spire to call for my soul with such intensity, such devotion. I'm falling upward out of my body. This is why I'm in this gully of northern Thai rock, is it not? To fall out of this body and into another. One evening, I fall asleep meditating. I awake at 9:30, completely disoriented. My hut is dark, my contacts are welded to dry eyes, and my bladder groans. Groggy and half blind, I stagger outside to the bathroom. Climbing onto the cement block and placing my feet on the grooved footpads beside the basin, I notice a scattering of black lines in the toilet bowl. I groan. More dead gnats. Day after day, I clap my palms together over the bowl, careful not to disturb the other nuns. I scoop water from a bucket and dribble mini waterfalls of warning, begging the gnats to fly away so I can pee without committing a sin. I hop from leg to leg, mouthing a prayer of increasing intensity. Hurry up, fly away. These gnats that have chosen my toilet are my responsibility, my constant, inadvertent sin. Since they're dead already, I suppose it's all right. I wrestle up my sarong over my hips and squat down. Afterwards, I step off the dais and reach for the plastic bowl to ladle water into the basin to flush. As I bend towards the plastic bucket, I hear a whoosh. Spinning around, I see a rat, its torso nearly 8 inches long, fly out of the toilet bowl, exactly where I'd been squatting only seconds before. My groin contracts, the bowl clatters to the floor, a strangled cry escapes my throat. The rat, propelling itself out of the narrow mouth of a toilet, flies in a liquid, glistening arc towards the door it no doubt expects to find open in the great outdoors beyond. Instead, the door is shut. With a great thwap, it hits the wood full force and goes berserk. Squealing, the animal flings itself around the tiny bathroom, twisting up, down, and around. Each time it meets resistance and ricochets faster off the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Zoom, zoom, zoom. It flails and shrieks, scattering its foul trail, bared teeth slicing within inches of my hair, my face, my throat, my breast, my belly, my buttocks, my calves, my ankles. Still crouched over the bucket, I'm paralyzed in the midst of the rat's crazed trajectory, a museum thief caught in a high-tech laser web. Even if I had the presence of mind to move out of the way, I have no idea where to go. The rabid rat is moving so quickly, it's everywhere. I hear the crunch of rat muscle and bone against the stone walls, tin ceiling, wooden door. Somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I know that I can't scream. The nuns who've taken vows of silence don't go running around, hollering and running about half naked due to small animals. It takes all my concentration to control this novice body in the stiff white sarong that has chosen this, of all moments, to begin undoing itself. As my skirt slides down my trembling legs, my heart raises so high in my throat it nearly chokes me. I feel a furry whir against my knees, and the bucket flips over, leaking water onto the cement floor. Liquid dribbles warm along my inner thigh. Finally, the rat finds a drainage hole in the corner and squeezes through, scurrying into the black forest. Throwing open the wooden door, I tear down the stone walkway, running off my need to scream, running towards safety. My mind whirls with information, namely that the rat lives in my toilet, in my private little septic tank, that the black lines I've been cleaning every day are not dead gnats at all, but are in fact rat excrement, that every time I squat down over the toilet, there is the very real possibility that this typhoid torpedo will come flying up, whoosh, with such force, ... I'm several yards down the path in the direction of the deep forest when a worse thought bursts sharp and clear through the half-formed jumble crowding my brain. Snakes. Here I'm running from a solitary rat headed straight into the jungle. I imagine a nest of king cobras coiled in muscular anticipation just inches from my feet. I can practically hear them rise up and tremble, their shadowy hoods flared, hear them spit and hiss. I pivot and head back towards my hut, sprinting up the steps and closing the door tight behind me. My hands flutter at the end of my arms until my entire body is shaking like one of those tourist junkies wandered down from the Heroin Hills. Is it possible to have a heart attack from swallowing screams? I pray for no more opportunities, as the head nun would put it, to overcome my own fears while developing compassion for all living creatures. No more glittering monitor lizards, their razored claws prying loose the wooden planks of my hut. No more glossy fist-sized spiders clinging to the wall above my sleeping mat. No more packs of cave rats swarming over the statues of the Buddha as I try to meditate tonight. I have no interest in meeting the challenge of Buddhist practice. I think I'll end there. Great.
I forgot I was about to do something. That was amazing. I was just all like engaged, and then you looked at me, and I was like, oh. I gotta stand up.
Yeah, it was fun. I have a friend, whenever I read that piece, he gets up and runs out the door. He's like so happy reading that.
Oh my goodness. I could feel it. I was there with you for like, I can't imagine.
Excellent. Hot mic.
Did I do it? Can y'all hear me?
Can you hear me? No. It's on, theoretically. How come yours is on and mine's not?
Is yours green at the top? Oh, it is.
Green. Hello? That's weird.
I'm not a techie person, so I don't know if I should offer to help. If the battery, I mean, I don't know. I have nothing.
We could give you a handheld.
Here, I can give her this one, and then I can hold the handheld.
You don't need it since
You'll be talking more than I will.
And watch it go dead on me. No, okay.
Hello,
me.
hello. Good?
Okay.
Okay.
And this is good? Yeah.
All right. We're talking with mics. Okay. So I'm not going to have enough time to get through all of these questions. So I've tried to pick out some that I think would be most interesting to hear you talk about right now. Starting with a bit of a combination question about your writing process. So I'm always interested to ask writers about their writing process, how you've developed it, what it looks like, if it has changed over the course of your career. But I'm also interested in whether or not some of the things that you learned and experienced in that experience you were just describing, if that has also had an impact on your writing process in regards to meditation, in regards to just, any sort of process things that you've taken away from that experience as well.
Yeah, thank you. I talked a little bit about this earlier with the, I think, the two groups of students that I met with. And I am very much driven by the senses, and I often almost go into a trance and kind of time travel when I'm writing. And I think a lot of that does come from that meditative experience, the meditation to kind of do the arrival, the arrival of the body, the arrival of the breath, the arrival of your consciousness into a place. And then I often very kind of travel from there, prompted by a smell, a sound, and kind of try to just capture everything kind of cinematically. That I think also comes from the observational skills of being of trying to do an anthropological project, and then finding fault with kind of or questioning the politics of anthropology. So, and I'm definitely used to being alone, so being in the temple, it's like, oh, I am an introvert. I tend to go away to writers' residencies to do the really substantive work, the work that's really hard, like really starting a project or going in really deeply. And I think that comes from that too, that being alone in the forest. So that's another kind of, in a little hut, that's a practice that, I'm very familiar with, and really helps in my writing. And then paired with that is very kind of communal stuff. I have a writing partner. We don't write the same stuff, but we meet once a week to write together because I will not stand her up the way I would stand myself up. So we show up, show out, gossip for a bit, talk about whatever, and then write, or kind of talk through someone asked me to write this, and, I don't know what to do. And she'll be like, what about this story and this story and this story? Do that. And I was like, yeah. And then we have a writing group that meets every 2 weeks. It's the two of us and two other people. And so, sharing that work, and they, know me so well at this point that I can just give them crap and they can tell me how to revise. And so seeking out community as well, trusted readers. So it's that balance of solitude and community. That's a lot for me.
It's so amazing to be having this type of a conversation with one of my mentors, because I'm like, yeah, I do that too. And then I'm realizing that a lot of that I learned from you as well. Yeah, well, I think I told you this, but you've been a big inspiration for me around writing retreats, going and writing somewhere in the woods. I think I saw your pictures from Mesa.
Okay, yeah.
And that's how I ended up applying there.
Get out.
And I went there and I finished my book there, my second book, the one that I just sold. So it was like, before that, I could not figure this book out. So I understand what you're saying around those moments when you need to go and kind of work through something more difficult, because although I had a regular writing practice, I could not figure that book out until I went away in the woods with it.
I love
So
that.
yeah, so
That's
thank
so
you for
cool.
that.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were reading, I felt really interested in you saying that prior to this moment, you hadn't meditated for more than, what'd you say? 15 minutes. So how did you go from that to, what was it, 19 hours?
19 hours of mindfulness a day. And then as
Mm-hmm.
I left, I did a 72-hour stretch, like just straight as
Wow.
like a challenge to myself. I was so high. Oh my gosh. I was like, am I alive? If I got like, I was like out of my mind, but it
Yeah.
was super cool.
What was that process like, going from where you started to reaching that goal that you set?
That's really the beauty of that particular, I mean, it was Vipassana meditation, and then I was in the forest tradition. And even when I was taking the vows were like, I undertake the rule, or there was trying built into it. Like, I will try to abstain from false speech. You know, I undertake the rule to do this. It wasn't saying I'm going to be perfect and I'm not going to do this. And it was not saying these things are sinful. It was like, these are the things that get in the way of wisdom. Anger, greed, covetous behavior will get in the way of wisdom, and you will not be free. And if you want to be free, these are techniques. And so the kind of effort built into it felt really forgiving, and it felt like I can do this because I don't know what I'm doing, but they're willing to ordain me. And there are two really powerful people, the head nun and my advisor, who believe in me. So I'm going to step up, but I also know I don't have to be perfect. And so she's like, you know how to do 15 minutes? Guess what happens after that? Minute 16. And guess what happens after that? And so it was just like, and the meditation was really simple. It was just like, focus on your breathing, where you are. Oh, someone distracting you. Focus on distraction, distraction, distraction. Then go back to the breath, the breath, the breath. Oh, now you're thinking about that thing you could have said. Okay, distraction, distraction, distraction. Then back on the breath. And so it was just like working out. It was developing a muscle, just like anything else. And the thing I loved about it was your success was entirely based on what you did. It wasn't on how you spun it. It wasn't on your standing in life. It wasn't how people looked at you. It was either you sat in meditation and you overcame your fears, or you didn't. And every day she would come and talk to me for half an hour. It's called Taking Your Temperature. She would ask me what I had seen, what I was struggling with. Oh, it was hard today. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be boring some days. It's supposed to be boring. Some days you're going to be euphoric. Don't get stuck in the euphoria. Move past it. And so it was just very gentle. In terms of the way we are. Mm-hmm. And so that just encouraged me. And also I was keeping all these charts because remember I'd wanted to do anthropology. So I would look at these charts and I saw the times that I stuck with the practice, I improved. So I was like, ooh, subject sat in meditation and happiness increased, calmness, blah, blah, blah. Subject spent the entire time daydreaming about, chocolate chip cookies, bad meditation. So it was very clear to me too, even when I felt like I wasn't making progress, if I went back and looked at the charts, I could see when I was. And that encouraged me.
I love that. I love what you said about, what happens after minute 15. Minute 16, which I think is a great way to think about writing as
right.
well. And the charting process that you just described, I actually did something like that related to writing as well, just doing different things in my writing sessions and then seeing, if I had a really bad writing session or a really good one, and then how that related to the thing that I was testing or what have you. So, yeah. Okay. And so I'm curious if, given all of this amazing experience that you have with meditation and you're just a pro at it. And I'm wondering if that's how the
okay.
I'm wondering if that's how the connection with the calm, the world of calm came about, if it had to do with your experiences there, or if it came about some other sort of way.
It was a combination of things. And part of it was good allyship, just like you've demonstrated. And I mentioned this earlier today, is that during the pandemic, all my travel writing opportunities dried up. So I'm stuck at home. And a woman who I know in the travel writing world happened to be in town, and she invited me to come to her travel sketch class, which was terrifying. because I haven't drawn since grade school, and I was as bad as I imagined. I was like the worst one. But she and I really connected, and she wrote and also illustrated calm sleep stories. And she said, I think you'd be really great because you're a travel writer with a meditation practice. And so she recommended me, and she Xeroxed copies of Meeting Faith and sent it to them with the recommendation. Wow. Then she met with me and prepped me for my interview. That's awesome. She did all the stuff, And so then I went in and had a conversation with the guy who had started the whole concept of sleep stories. He was like, yes, we need one really fast because we've got a contract with Idris Elba to do one that's going to be partnered with Red, so the money will go towards HIV prevention. So that one needs to happen. But we're also starting this thing with HBO, World of Calm, which is kind of nutty, and you seem like you're someone who says yes to nutty things. And I'm like, you have pegged me. Yes, I'm that girl. And so then I got that contract at the same time, and then I was just like, oh my God, I actually get to kind of create mindfulness through the narration with these images. And so I lean very heavily into kind of what I know. So when you listen to those, I'm not saying meditation, but I'm using all the meditation principles of, breath and mindfulness and everything.
Yeah, I love that. I use Calm. So when I saw you post about it, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so famous. That's super exciting. So, okay. You're watching the time, right? Okay. Thank you. I forgot to. Okay. You said how many minutes? Oh, okay. Okay, great. I have a good question that I want to make sure that I get to, which is about form. And so you have, written in a variety of different forms. I was really intrigued to hear you talk about the way that the formatting of Meeting Faith came about and the things that you were thinking about as you were working on that project. I haven't read the new memoirs yet, but I've seen some visuals, and I know that you're continuing to play with form, to play with structure. I think to be very intentional about how you're choosing to tell a particular story. And I would love to just hear you speak more about how you go about that process of knowing, deciding, etc., what form a project will or should take. Mm-hmm. And if you feel that the projects that you've worked on thus far have, somewhat, have they emerged in your mind already in the form that they ended up in, or is form a thing that you discover, I guess, as you're working on the project?
That's a great question. Yeah, I definitely discover the form. I feel that the story is out there, and it knows the structure it wants, and it's my job to listen carefully to kind of what it's trying to tell me. And so it emerges, and I think that every story kind of has its own unique structure. So I'm always spending a lot of time kind of trying to figure out what that is. And my agent is like, why can't you just write the story? And I'm like, because it's not just the story, it's how the story comes out, how it is shaped, because that's saying something politically, that's saying something about the world I'm trying to create. I'm trying to do things that also then take the reader on a journey. And so a lot of it's been trial and error, just like with painting or something like that. Does this work? Does that work? So I write the draft, and then I see myself like, these things are recurring, or I'm using a lot of this particular kind of imagery, or I'm writing as if it were a screenplay, or I'm shifting to second person, or I just see these things are happening. I do a lot of kind of hermit crab, so it's coming out as a multiple choice quiz, or there'll be little elements of it, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's telling me that's what it wants, and then I'll kind of go into it. And I was telling the students in this last class that in graduate school, whenever I was trying to do this crazy ass stuff, my fellow students were like outraged. Yeah. So with this one, at the time, I would print it twice. I would do like a piece of paper sideways, because we didn't have all the formatting that you can do now. So I would like run it through once in Times New Roman, and then I'd run it through a second time in Helvetica. And they were just like, why? Like, why do we have to do it? So they would say, you can't do two narratives on a page. And I'd be like, oh, you don't know who you're dealing with. So, but for me, it was like, all I heard was, oh, you're not doing it well enough yet. So I got to figure out how to teach the reader to read it. I have to be really intentional. If you're making someone do extra work, there's got to be a payoff. There's got to be something they're getting. So then I would start. Oftentimes it would actually be in feedback, like someone would write something and I'd be like, oh yeah, that is what I am doing. I'm trying. When we see journal entries, we expect them to be unedited and more intimate. So we trust them in a way, or we relate to them in a different way than something that's a memoir. So it's like, what is it that I wanted to be whispered and unedited? Oh, it was the internal change. So as I'm changing internally, the stuff that wasn't said because of the vow of silence, those are in the journal entries. The memoir, which allows you to go back and forth in time and make meaning of your experience, that'll be in the middle. That'll be the more formal stuff. So just always kind of thinking about, why am I doing it a particular way? What's the payoff for the reader? Is it worth it? Have I done it? Have I established patterning? So it doesn't just seem like a crazy melange, but that there is a method to this madness, that like, if it's here, this is what it means. If it's in this font, this is what it means. And then they can start to feel that I'm asking a lot of them, but there's it's carefully, it's reasoned. There will be a payoff. But I discovered on the way, I never know at the beginning.
Yeah. I'm just shaking my head at you because I'm pretty sure you just helped me figure out something about my novel with something you just said. And I'm shaking my head because I'm like, every time I talk to you, the magic happens. Okay. One last quick question. Okay. And so my last quick question is, because there are a lot of students here, and I know you've spoken to students today. I try to think about what I tend to say to my creative writing students over and over again, because I had been asked the question, like, what's your favorite piece of writing advice, or what advice do you always give to your students? And for a while I was thinking, well, I don't think I give a certain piece of advice more often than anything else. And I couldn't think of it. There's one that I've been saying a lot lately. I have a couple students here, so they've probably heard me say this like 10 times this year, but I started saying, write what you know is, just the beginning, because you can go beyond that to write what you can know. And I think for me, when I'm talking about that, a lot of it has to do with, I think, these experiences that you're talking about with deciding to ordain, because you needed to know that intimately to be able to speak on it. And I think that for me, a lot of times when I'm working on a project, I'll go do something and I'll try to see what I can know about a thing so that I can write it. So that's my example. What's yours? What's a piece of creative writing advice that you give over and over?
I feel like I've given up. That was like, find the structure. Yeah, no, it was like, find the structure. I'm a big proponent of research. Even, I'm teaching nonfiction, and I think research, and not like hard nonfiction, but like memoir, like research your own life. Research what was going on at the time that you think know what was going on, because I just find incredible kind of connections and metaphors in the things that were going on. I think there's an example I use a lot, but like kind of one of the most formative moments of my life is when my mom told me the true story of my birth. And up until then, I did not know that she and my father hadn't been married, that my grandparents had kicked her out. I was being raised by my grandparents, that I'd been born in a home for unwed mothers, like just all of that. I didn't know any of that stuff. So my mom tells me that, but we're sitting on a couch, and I'm like, So to write that story, it's like two people sitting on a couch. There was nothing exciting to say about that. And so, but I had plotted it on a timeline of kind of transformative moments and what was going on in the world. Mount St. Helens had erupted within that time frame. So I was like, okay, that's my anchoring event. So then I researched, when was the first time Mount St. Helens erupted and what was the last time it erupted? So the first time it erupted, according to the indigenous lore in our area, is that two sons of the creator were fighting over a maiden, and they were throwing lava back and forth, and he's like, I'm tired of this shit, and he turned them all into mountains. And she was Mount St. Helens, encased in snow, and the other two were Mount Hood and Mount Adams. And he's just like, just sit there and think about what you did. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then the last time had been in the same year as the Dred Scott case, declaring that blacks weren't human beings. which then paved the way for the Civil War. So I was like, all of that is perfect thematically for this story of my white Nordic mother being kicked out of the family for becoming pregnant by a Nigerian man, and then it having to be a secret. So I used and then I researched what actually happened during the eruption, and it was insane. Like, it was just insane the impact it had around the world. Like, the street lights went on in my house, which is like 200 miles away, because this column of ash came to town, and then the column of ash went all around the world in a week, and entire species were wiped out. I mean, it was just this huge impact. So I wrote this story of like hearing this thing, and my mom's telling me the story, and I kind of fudged it because I'm like doing this magical realism while the lights are going off, and it's like a spell. We're all falling under the spell of the ash, and I'm interweaving the indigenous story, I'm interweaving the Dred Scott story, I'm interweaving the actual geological science of what happened, and this story of everything my mother has ever told me about my father, and I'm reworking it. Was that a lie? Was that a truth? Was that a lie? And so all of that was there from the research of how to make this story more interesting.
Wow.
Just waiting. So that's my advice. Go look for what the research will give you.
Wow, y'all. Y'all heard that too? Okay. That's incredible. Thank you. I'm going to go sit back down so you can read to us some more. But thank you for answering these questions and for inspiring me.
Wasn't
as
she
always.
Great? That was great.
Is she
Thank
great?
you. She was great. Okay, y'all ready for a little more?
What was the example you just? What book is that example you just?
That is in an anthology called Gumbo.
Oh, I know Gumbo.
Yeah.
I'm in Gumbo.
Oh, you are? Get out. Really? It's called Fire, an origin story.
All right, that's so much of it.
That's so funny. I love that. I'm in Gumbo. That is hilarious. Okay, where's my next one? Okay. Great. So these are the two new chapbooks. And the first one, is it voiceover? Uh-oh. Okay. So these are the two chapbooks. And they're both excerpts from a larger family memoir. And I would say that one of them is speculative nonfiction. I'd say voiceover is speculative nonfiction. And I'd say her voice is more kind of just traditional, but kind of hybrid. And they're meant to be read together. They're the same family characters. They have similar themes. Voiceover is one day, and her voice is kind of, a lot of my childhood. So in her voice, I use my grandmother's cancer diaries. I use silent film cards, like silent films, how they have the dialogue in between that to kind of indicate the things that were unsaid. I use stills from a film that I made. I throw in some fish, so some lessons about salmon, because salmon are very important. I have stills from language lessons from YouTube, and then I have filmmaking instructions. So those are the things that are always kind of recurring with that. So, 40 years after her death, my grandmother strolls into my dream. She emerges from a cloud of fog or smoke like a film noir heroine, her soft beak of a nose forming in midair above Cupid's bow lips. Breathless, I watch her approach in black and white. Mumi Lempi starts to set the table with dishes or art supplies. It isn't yet clear. Her movements are as familiar as our very own Ingrid Bergman in Gaslight, in Spellbound, in Notorious, in Casablanca, always soft and cool. She's been gone too long, my doppelganger, the one who made me an artist, the one who holds my left hand, the writing one, in her soft right one, her other hand still holding tight to Finland, the one who bends over my bed at night, even if I can't see and don't remember, whispering. She whispers verses from the Kalevala, our national epic. She whispers the names of relatives lost in the project of immigration. She whispers my work, all the things that I, as our first black and white make brown American, must remember. Smiling, she opens her mouth and starts to speak. I squint and lean forward. I hear the muted, velvety darkness of dream world, then a low hum. Eventually, the faint sounds of Northern California waking up call me back. Dogs on leashes sniffing circles past each other, children flat-footing towards school buses like mini missiles, aromatic taco trucks jingling into formation, the soft rasps of the man next to me. And suddenly, I'm upright in bed, tangled in damp sheets, gulping oxygen like someone who's just surfaced. My legs linger in dream world, paralyzed with sleep. I claw at my nightdress, squish a palm against my chest, desperate to feel, then quiet, the heartbird fluttering inside. Now I'm sobbing, spumes of snot and tears soaking the bed, alarming my partner who's now awake. What is it? He pleads. What happened? I shake my head, not ready to voice it, though I know what the dream means. I can no longer hear my Mumi. I've forgotten her voice. I'm possessed. With good reason. I'm the only one of me. There are younger siblings in Nigeria, fully African, raised by the father who left me behind, and Nordic cousins throughout America, Finland, and Sweden, but I'm the only one of me. An only child with a single parent, I've always been terrified of being left behind. Whenever my friends threatened to leave home in search of their real parents who would let them eat candy for dinner and wouldn't make them do chores, I was dumbstruck. It never occurred to me to try to make it to the next town with a sandwich and a change of underpants. I was too busy worrying that my remaining parent might run away. I'm damned if Mumi Lempi, the one who understood me, is going to leave me. I spend the rest of the day in bed leafing through her hand-tinted photo albums, picturing what happened before and after each shot. Half the pages are blank, already looted by me. I am a hoarder of family artifacts, of what is lost in the act of immigration and remaking. I've always relied on my senses to lead the way. The taste of words in my mouth, the way they accumulate on the page, building portals to the past. The lost emotions preserved in old bottles, just waiting for me to uncork and inhale. The ghostly indentations and traces of warmth left behind in used clothes. But how do you go about recapturing the sound of a voice that no longer exists? By evening, I'm pretty sure I should make a short film. Perhaps the images and movement can help recover her voice, or at least help me process the act of forgetting her voice. I'm not sure. Do I even know how to make a film? That's funny, y'all. So, oh yeah. So what I left out here is that, so as I go further into the story, I recall that at one point we were together and she flinched and she said, "I can feel all the things I never said moving through my bloodstream, killing me." And it turns out that she had gone to the doctor that day and said that she felt that she was sick. And he gave her a whole bunch of Valium and told her that, no, she was hysterical, and sent her home until eventually she died of cancer. But she started creating these lists in her journal entries of everything she could remember. So these are all the movies I love. These are the songs I love. So she started creating this inventory and kind of philosophizing on life. And then she said she wanted to go back home and for her home was this tiny Finnish village outside of Gloucester, Cape Ann in Massachusetts, where she had spent 1 year of her life. And so she kind of did all of this stuff. So this is also my attempt then so using the Finnish language lessons, I found these lessons that are all talking about science, or all talking about health. And so those are standing in for the things that she couldn't say or didn't say, all the things she never said that she could feel moving through her body. And then at some point when I'm trying to do the films, my uncle, who's estranged from the rest of the family, shows up with a reel of home movies, which we didn't know existed. So I'm all excited. I put them on, and then I realize they're silent. I'm like, more silence. But I use these images, and they're and they're kind of fabulous. So kind of what I do with them. These are my grandparents, and I put my inheritance on them. So on the left, my inheritance from Mumi, my horoscope, Pisces, have mercy. Quiet art, the Kalevala. Sisu, the Finnish art of suffering stoically. Melancholy, we don't have to like it. Bakeware, hand-tinted photo albums, hand-painted Arabia dishes, plaid car coat, natal homing. And then from my Swedish grandfather, inheritance from Morfar Gibb, my political outrage, loud storytelling, Norse mythology, Vikings, hot temper when Sisu doesn't work, charm, when you lose family, make friends, cribbage board, carved Alaskan walrus tusks, World War II photojournalism, firm belief that bag bomb will fix everything. So, and then there are a lot of chapters woven throughout where I do different types of filmmaking lists for list makers, narcissists, amateur sleuths, researchers, and lonely granddaughters. So that's what this is about. And then the next one, Voiceover, which is a memoir in 7 movies, is written in a modified screenplay format where I recast family members as characters in kind of iconic American films. I also have some DIY collages, some film posters, and it all happens one day, countdown to the end of the polls. So I'll just read a little bit from that. So, the family in order of appearance. Faith, age 9, the only brown person in the house, apprentice bookworm committed to righting wrongs, likes to things like no fair, suffers from being the only black girl in school-ism. Mumi Lempi, almost 60, youngest daughter of Finnish immigrants, newly white mother of 2, soft-spoken amateur artist, chef, baker, proto-domestic goddess, and an example to her granddaughter Faith. Likes to say things like, 2 wrongs don't make a right, suffers from long suffering. Morfar Gibb, also almost 60, son of a Swedish immigrant, one of 12 kids, also newly white. Opinionated patriarch, union organizer and construction foreman at the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. Likes to say things like, prove it, just because it's in this goddamn right-wing newspaper or on television doesn't mean it's true. Suffers from television news-induced apoplexy and tall taleism. Mom, Holly, not yet 30, white American, fierce single mother, junior high school teacher, dedicated bookworm and political junkie, likes to say things like, typical male behavior, suffers from not giving a damn-ism. Uncle Michael Veno, age 24, dashing, hard-partying uncle who rarely notices the rest of us, sleeps late, keeps back issues of Playboy magazine in boxes in his closet, unskilled worker at manufacturing plant, likes to say things like, oh, you think you're too good? Suffers from a different kind of not giving a damn-ism. College-age Faith, wide-eyed, bushy-haired, first-generation Ivy Leaguer, cinephile and New Wave fan, still committed to righting wrongs, likes to say things like, Sunday is the new Friday at the club, and and my final paper will resolve my identity issues. Suffers from not knowing how to resolve her identity issues. 10 minutes till the polls close. I watch as the women in my family swagger into town and assemble ominously on Main Street, aka the junior high school parking lot. We knot wool scarves backwards over hairdos, spun light as cotton candy, adjusting shimmering hose, smooth leather driving gloves over fingers, and slow, determined strokes that mean business. We stride through the swinging doors to the junior high school auditorium, pink voting cards locked and loaded, and stand shoulder to shoulder, surveying this rotten gang of union-busting ranchers and farmers. We're here to save America. Mom has it bad for likes to claim he's Mongolian or Romani or Tartar Yul Brynner, who leads the Magnificent Seven. Hollywood's original bald sexy man, a multi-ethnic Russian whose family lost their wealth during the revolution when the Red Army nationalized their property and didn't notice Finland sneaking out the back door. In his lifetime, Yul plays an infantilized Thai king, a red-booted Cossack, an Egyptian pharaoh, an Israeli king, an Arab revolutionary, a Mexican revolutionary, an Indian revolutionary, a Native American chief captured by Mayans, a Japanese-Polish Air Force sergeant, and a magnificent American cowboy. Mom also has it bad for Sydney, looks just like your Poppy Portier, suggesting that she may in fact suffer from jungle fever. And I'll end up with that. So. Trying to drink with the lid on.
Thanks so much. And all these books that have been talked about are right back there for you to purchase. So thank you so much.
Sure, if people have questions, I'd be happy to. It can be intimidating to ask questions in a large group.
Bring the mic around if anybody has a question. A lot of people asking questions all day.
I know.
If you had to do anything differently with, or is there anything you wish you did differently with Meeting Faith? Or are you content with how you wrote it?
I know, that's really tough. It was so long ago. One thing I would do is I wouldn't have used people's names. I used some people's names in my hometown without thinking that they would read books. And they didn't. They just like went to a bookstore and leafed through till they saw the portions about them, and then they talk shit about me on Amazon, which they're perfectly within their rights because I shouldn't have used their last names. I didn't even think about it. But you know how you when you refer to your bully, you say their first and last name together as if it were one word? So it was that kind of stuff. So I like didn't think about the fact that like, oh shit, that's not right. Just because of the power differential, right? Like I got to write the book. So I would not do that. And yeah, it would be a different story if I wrote it now, right? So you can write the same memoir at 20, at 25, at 30, at 45, and based on what's happened before, you'll make different meaning out of it based on where you are right now. So I try not to have regrets about, other than hurting someone when I didn't need to. That's the only thing. But otherwise, the text does what it needed to do at the time, I think. Thanks. With these, I would have gotten a professional to do the collages, which is originally what we were going to do, and then we ran out of time. So then, like, my stupid, like, placeholder collages are in there, and I'm like, every time I see them, or every time I see a real collage, I'm just like, oh my God, the shame. So...
Hi.
Hi.
I loved your presentation. It was amazing.
Thank you.
But I was just wondering, as both an anthropology and an English student, nowadays within the discipline of anthropology, we talk a lot about, decolonial theory and what it means to really interrogate, like, where anthropology came from, like, should we throw it away as a whole? So I was really interested in you mentioning sort of your background in anthro and going abroad to do research. And I wanted to ask you, like, what was most useful to keep maybe from that, and what do you think, like, really, like, in your experiences, what helped you interrogate, what's not worth to keep within that?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, and I have so many, like in the workshop where I met Kai Vona, I had so many of those folks are like recovering anthropologists or sociologists, like so many people, because they care, they're interested in cultures and people, are drawn to those, to that field. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. It's based on something kind of problematic. And also a lot of people then feel like they lose their voice. And so I have so many people come to me and they're like, I have been studying anthropology, sociology, law, whatever, and I've lost my voice. And so then it's like, oh, where did you originally become interested in this? Probably it was the kitchen table listening to the aunties or something like that. So... okay, I'm losing track of the question you actually asked me. So I think for me, it was as soon as he said, you're about to replicate the error of Western anthropology, I immediately was like, yes, he has got it. And how can I, as a brown person, be involved in that? So even though we didn't, at that point, there wasn't we weren't talking about decolonization, and there wasn't even autoethnography, So I ended up actually leaving anthropology and turning my thesis. I mean, I did do the thesis, but then turning it into Meeting Faith. And there are some case studies of the women I interviewed in the book. But I think it was just kind of going back to this type of storytelling that I had heard in the household. And my mom supplemented my education. I had school, but then I had weekend school and I had summer school, and it was all, her anthropology textbooks and mythology, and everybody in the family was responsible for teaching me something. And so there were those things, like I had to study all the world's religions, and when I was 18, I was supposed to decide the religion I wanted. So there was precedent in our household for engaging, interrogating, my whole thing with, every night we had to read the local newspaper and then make an argument for like what was problematic about it. So I was taught critical thinking in my family. And so it only took someone saying, even though, you're at Harvard studying with like these world famous anthropologists, they don't necessarily know everything. It just took, this professor in Thailand saying, y'all haven't got it right yet, for me to be like, oh, okay, yes, thank you for reminding me. And I'm going to do it in a way that feels more in keeping with helping to get free and helping to understand. And I noticed that when I was doing the field work, when I was talking to the nuns and I had, my notebook and I was talking to them, I would get one thing. And then as soon as I would close the notebook and put it aside, then they would lean forward and start to tell me the real stuff and also ask me about myself. So then I started working on, and luckily I was doing meditation so I could develop my memorization capability. So then I would just memorize the entire interview rather than trying to write it. Because then if it were a conversation where I was giving something and receiving, it was so much better than the formal thing. And so that also taught me that that was a better way to do it, that the techniques I had been taught were never going to get the right thing. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, sorry. It's not a discussion. I really resonate with that. I think the Western perception of like what interview and like what like good like research practice even looks like is just like, it's totally like Eurocentric. And I've done the research I did this summer. It was like, you're right, as soon as I closed my laptop, like that's when we really got to it. Exactly. And that's where all the love and the learning came through, was right there. Right.
And we're told we're not even supposed to relate to our subjects, right? Because then that will muddy the data. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Whereas like we're doing this work out of love and out of understanding. And I see so many things. I mean, I just was recently writing something just small, business related too. And there was all this interesting cultural information that the interviewer hadn't recognized. It was there, but they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to interpret it or anything like that, So it's like, you have to know the people. You can't just be removing yourself from that. But there is that fantasy kind of in the model that we've gotten there's a myth that there is no bias, right? That we're just being objective here, which is bullshit to start with. But then there's this idea that you should really separate yourself and not, be contaminated by going native or by caring or knowing anything about the people that you're with. And we see it in all sorts of things. Yeah. Where did you do your research?
I was in Rwanda.
Oh, man. Lovely.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Rwanda is awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question they'd like to ask?
Yeah, so what advice do you have for a college student who thinks that, how did you put it? It's like her final paper is going to like resolve her identity crisis. Asking for a friend.
That is fabulous. So I think it's just a matter of being kind of realistic about how much of your identity you can resolve in each one of those papers. So, yeah, every damn paper. And then the extensions, and then the this and the that. So yeah, I think it's being, you do have to, I feel that you have to fall in love with everything you write to a certain extent. And I do that even with paid commissioned work. I find a way in to love the person or love the subject or, love the challenge or try to get things past the censor, the thrill of that. So I think it is really important to use your college education to resolve, well, not resolve, but to explore, trouble, interrogate, find language for your identity issues. Just don't be hugely ambitious and feel that the one paper will resolve all the things. So just focus a little, and so that it can be, these are all steps. I mean, I'm still writing about my identity, like 20 years into this, right? So be gentle with yourself and figure out what is it you can do through this particular aspect of it. It's all, part of this kaleidoscope or this mosaic, this beautiful mosaic of yourself that you're making. Does that help? Good.
Going once. Twice. Well, thank you again.
I saw him.
We have. No. One more. This is it. Final question from Nikita.
Hello.
Hi.
I am in awe of your talent and also your passion and talent in so many different realms of storytelling and creativity and creative expression. And so I'm curious if you ever feel like a struggle to determine how you wish to express creativity and like which avenue or format you would choose, or if you have kind of an instinctive answer for how you want to tell a story and in what form you want to do it.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you. You're doing wonders for my ego, which is great. And it's funny because I have so many friends who are like super talented. You're like, I'm like writing in this genre and that genre, but I also make music. And then I'm like, building a tree house. And I'm just like, what? Like, I'm like, I can cook and I can do some writing. That's like it. And I can be funny. But like, I can't, like, there's so many people who have like so many different things they can do. So it's really interesting. I don't feel like I have lots of different types of creativity, So, but one of the things is I say yes to everything. So, when someone says like, can you write for television? I'm like, or so I love doing new types of writing because I think it will teach me about my craft and teach me about narrative. And so I actually do like taking these like weird paid gigs that I was like, I'm going to profile somebody for like who works at Hormel, like what, so, but a Nigerian person and like, what can I learn about that? So I like doing all different kinds of narrative because I think that it will just create more tools in the toolbox. And then when I'm going to write something, I don't know how it's going to come out. And then I'll kind of discover what the structure is. But I do, so it's interesting because in some ways I'm a little risk taking and other ways I wasn't. Like it was so painful for me to take that travel sketch workshop and suck at it like all day long for 2 days. It was like so hard because like I never did sports as a child. So I like never learned how to just like suck and get over it. I was just like, oh, I want to be perfect, So it was like really hard to do things that I'm not good at. And how do you become good at stuff? By like doing and sucking. And that part is hard for me. So there has to be something where someone is like, I think you can do this. Would you be willing to do it? And then I'm like kind of more willing to try. I forgot what you asked me.
That was the perfect answer.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Okay. Who knows? But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your attention and your questions. I really appreciate. Yeah. Yes. Mama needs new shoes. More glasses.
qualifies you to be a dad or something. You guys taught me everything I know, so this is your fault. The dad jokes? I'm not taking credit for that. That's not anywhere on my own. I don't know what you're talking about. But, you know, happy birthday. Aside from some birthdays, it's your birthday. I was at I was your sister for 2 years. I know my birthday. No. Yeah. I just learned everything about games. So no university, you know. Wait, that means you're okay. Yeah, no, but that means that you're a Scorpio. No wonder. Now I get it. You know that little Scorpio Cancer thing? Lord. Yeah, you do. Oh, you're not gonna think. Isn't that funny? Like some Scorpios are like the scorpion and some are like eagles. Not with other water systems.
Poets make great memoirs.
So I hear.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, there's so much work to do. When does that happen?
I know you have to figure out the sentences thing.
That's exactly the language.
But yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much again.
Sign.
Oh, you're so sweet. You bought everything. I love it.
This is definitely gonna be it. My mom loves reading.
Oh, yeah?
So that's gonna be her Christmas gift.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Can I have your pen?
Yes.
Okay. So should I write it to her?
Yes. You write to Christina.
Is that how's it spelled?
CHRISTINA.
Okay, the traditional way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so wild. So I'm looking at that on my shelf. So I'm gonna go home and
Anything in particular?
I don't know.
She loves reading.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I love reading. I'm trying to think. I didn't think about this.
I don't know. You don't have to. It's supposed to be me. So I'm kind of, but I really suck at this. So I'm kind of trying to figure it out. Okay.
I do. And she's great. It took me a second because it was like a different world. You know how you do that with the context? Yes. And you don't know so many folks. She's very enthusiastic. She just moved into a new position.
That makes it sound like I'm a good book. I'm trying not to say that. I was trying to say like because I come from a mom who loves reading too.
Oh, yeah.
So. So it's so funny. It makes it sound like you appreciate a good book, so this one's good. That's not what I was trying to say.
If you could just sign your name. These are gonna be for me.
Okay. That's so funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so she'd be like, "Who's this egomaniac that you were?"
It's so funny because I had my English teacher in high school wrote a bestseller that he said it just narrowly missed. Like it was on New York Times bestseller, and he said he might have won like a more prestigious award, but his publisher didn't order enough copies, so it didn't sell enough. It was called Wabi Sabi. It was a children's book that he wrote.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So he wrote it when he was in Japan for 3 years. But it's funny. It's the second book signed.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much. It was really great
yes.
meeting you, and all
It was-
your great questions that you asked today. You were fabulous.
I'm very glad to learn. So it's awesome to be able to hear from lots of people.
That's so great. I
Because
wish you the best.
very much someone that loves being creative. I don't exactly know what road I'm going to go down because I'm very much like the music, the writing, a lot of different things. So it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like my idol's like, I want to be Donald Trump. But that's like, you're just good at everything you do. Yeah, okay, good for you. Like, you're Steelers prodigies. That's like when I was in France for a trip over the summer last year, and I saw a guy who started playing piano when he was 12. He was 22, playing Chopin, just like wonderful. This was like one of those like random. We were in Paris. We saw it at one of these random churches. Oh, Chopin concert on Wednesday. We were there from Monday to Friday, so we're like, might as well. And it's like, okay, this guy was better than I will ever be in my entire life. And I've been playing for longer than him. Like, okay, like, you were just that good. Like, okay, good for you. Yeah, it's like, you probably better than me in your first year. Like, it's like, yeah, that's pretty amazing strength. Also, notice the glasses switch. Yeah. I thought it was funny. I walked in and you had different glasses. She switched glasses and you needed to show back. I was like, wait, now she's glasses. Yeah. It was great meeting you. I look forward to reading these.
Sometimes I get to zone out and then that doesn't water. But you like have so much respect for people. Like you can sense that. You know, and some people think other shit about them. Like you talk about yourself because you're public.
That's
you
easy.
should.
I'll take a
But then you also like you stay you have a team that
Yeah.
that can
The
actually
department has to
conversation
that.
with people.
I mean, arts and sciences doesn't even need to do much. They just have sign off on.
Yeah, of course.
Also, not to get broken record, but a little less.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
good.
okay, yeah.
Sure. I'll do it the last week of this term too.
Your classes are so good. I love the green ones, like so cool. I love them. These are actually so that
Are you? That's fantastic. We'll do it at the beginning of next quarter.
Well, you can still do it.
I'm gonna love that Zoom call. I'm gonna be like, Kurt, I'm gonna do this. Hey, Kurt, say something if you don't want me to do that.
Just know that our friendship was put to the test right at the start, and Faith showed me that she's a very loving and sweet person who did not judge me.
Yeah, you can.
That's all I'll say.
That sounds like a beautiful start to a friendship.
It is, you know? It really does. Like, okay. I'll be okay.
Great.
That sounds lovely.
Chris was like, are they sure? I was like, well, they're saying it's fine.
Yeah, we would. Yeah. I'm not gonna ask.
Well,
I'm so
just like
curious. But
face,
you're gonna tell me something.
those writing residencies are everything. Yeah, really get through the tough stuff.
You have another one? I do.
I just did my entire summer.
You did?
Yeah.
Of course.
They are. I'm gonna do UCross in August. And then the rest of it, I'm actually going to, my friend has, it's so weird. His family has this legacy house in Gatakis. And he's like, I can't go there. You want to go there? And he's like, yes, I want to go there. And for how long? I was like, 2 months? He was like, okay. Yeah.
Nikita was my student assistant
Yep.
for 2
I
years.
mean, I am turning my grades in, and I'm flying. And I'm coming home just for the Mendocino Writers Conference.
So, yeah, when
for
I
3 days,
was like launching
and then I'm going to Wyoming for UCross. And then I finish that September 12th. Start school. Yep. But
what I was doing,
I will
I
have.
literally started working a tenure track job and trying to launch
I will have.
living state, all of the same job, and we all were sent.
This is like
for
a
sure.
baby that doesn't like sugar. You know, it's like I'm even eating all the things that help. You know,
I mean, if you don't have fun with it.
but it's just sticking. You know, wow, I'm having a heart attack. It's something I never have an issue with. Is writing the prose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
She's
doing the fun part.
I think so. She's
like,
teaching like.
and I think it's just, I think it was.
I know she's
I think it's
making.
quite literally the sensibility shutting down because I've hustled for so long. You know, and I'm still, like, because I've decelerated in my pacing, like I even feel myself be kind of Blah, 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 blah. You said, and I was like,
Right?
I
Wow.
have no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
And the best thing you said
So,
was how you feel about sports.
I'm
Like,
realizing
I
that I'm
didn't
trying to give myself that
so
space.
I was a perfectionist. I was like, I can't
Give
do
myself
well.
permission to
I'm
do
trying
it.
to
Because I tend not to, it's like that, poor kid, single mom.
That's actually a really
You
like, that's a
just,
skill.
you feel like an imposter, you don't feel like you're worthy enough, you feel like you have to hustle extra hard, blah, blah, blah. It's the same narrative that somebody else has. So I'm just trying to settle into it and actually enjoy it at a new pace. And I'm hoping that readjustment allows me to contract in the right way so I
You
can
gotta
get
come
the
play
baby
baseball.
out.
Right now. Just get hit in the face, baby, with the ball.
Breathe. Oh, man, just breathe, man. Just like, oh. No, I'll just take a whole bunch of barbiturates.
That's why I was
Can't do this like this. I know. Too reedy.
silly boys.
I'm supposed to do my own. This is my little class notebook. This is all my instructional material. Okay, I just have to go.
I am. So I didn't really want to eat before, though I did.
It's
No Nico. Awkward. No. We had lunch.
No. I don't eat. Here. Thank you. That was wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they live in Oakland, and their wife is my chiropractor. So she's always sitting
I thought it was like, I was like, oh man.
like, yeah.
Hey. Okay. You've had a good little day.
I did. Yeah, I came down. We met at noon, and they took me to the hut. And then I used it to class. So it was a full day.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling excited at dinner.
Yeah. You're ready. You're ready for some kicks.
I am.
Kicks.
I'm ready for some gigs.
No, it was, yeah, it allowed me to also like identify the topics I was interested in, and I wanted the conversation to just kind of flow.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Where is this?
Santa Rosa, out from the Alameda towards.
Oh, that place that we took. I'm in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
He didn't come to my party.
Yeah.